In this next article from Newsweek, record amounts of mail-in votes could be rejected in the 2020 election. Election officials are expecting a massive surge of mail-in ballots this fall as more Americans eschew voting in person to avoid the risk of spreading coronavirus after the pandemic is over. This is the biggest problem. Hold on. This is the biggest problem with why the Democrats are trying to bring this fraudulent mail-in voting. But mail-in voting is incredibly fraudulent. At polling places, there's laws that protect you from voter intimidation. When you let people fill out their ballots at home, there's no protection against voter intimidation. Many people live in places where they don't have private place where they can fill out a ballot, where they have a partner who will control them, force them to vote a certain way. If they know that you voted a different way, they'll throw your ballot away, or they'll just steal your ballot, throw it in the trash can. This is not good. Also, the Facebook and Twitter are both controlled by radical leftist Democrats, cultural Marxist drones, and they're feeding you fake news and propaganda, atrocity propaganda, run boogeyman propaganda, and attack boogeyman propaganda in order to force you to the boogeyman savior, which is how you're able to reverse triangulate what they're doing so you can triangulate back to the top of the ivory tower in the corrupt as fuck social pyramid from the top of the ivory tower. We got the Antifa down at the bottom with the hood Democrats above them, and then the white feminists above them, and the ivory tower liberals at the top with some QAnon shit going on. And so they want you to be isolated at your house, send in your mail-in ballot so you don't get to talk with anybody at the polling place. They don't want you to have anybody like me try to convince you to vote for Donald Trump because they want to rig the election for Joe Magoo Biden and Kamala the Snitch Harris. They're corrupt California Democrat cronies. They're trying to shove down our throat so they could get away with their plan of cultural Marxism. So they want to reduce the times, places, and manners in which you can engage in free speech and petitioning the government at polling places, which abridges your free speech and abridges your right to petition the government. And it's illegal. It's illegal to do this underneath our law system by the way that our laws are constructed. But Democrats don't care. They're just saying, no, we just want to make it easier. We just want to help you by abridging your rights. This is why you have to shut them down. This is why you just got to walk away from the Democrat Party. You have to say, hey, look, man, this shit is booty. Your policies are whack. I am just going to walk away from you people because this shit is crazy. It's bananas. I don't want you to vote at in my house. I live in Oregon. I've been doing this my whole life. It's not a very good voting system. People don't know very much about politics around here. Not like the red states where they talk about it at the polling places. People are completely clueless to politics around here, and then they just do a bunch of whack drugs. They start voodoo bumping, Molly, cocaine, other weird drugs. They got turkey basters hidden all around their houses. They're like popping antidepressants and Xanax, Klonopin, Trazepam, like some weird shit, dude. They're straight up booty bumping. And we're just supposed to just assume that just because they're a hippie, that means that they're not a lunatic. This is your confidence in these people is not well placed. Trust me, they are some kooky hippies. Most of what they believe based on fake news. And so if you're thinking that it's going to help you out to not talk to people with differing opinions, you're cruising for a bruising, because the fact is that a lot of people in Oregon are completely oblivious to these opinions that I'm saying. I personally am way ahead of most people. I found this stuff on the intellectual dark web because they were trying to hide it. They were suppressing it. Then I figured out why. And once you do that, you have to bring light to it to show people, hey, look what they've been hiding from you. And so Mr. Magoo, they know people are only voting for him because he's not Trump. This is what they have to work with. They got to work with the voting coalition they put together. They've already bought and paid for the voting coalition. They've already got the African Americans on the plantation. So they got to keep you there by promising to you that they're going to take the white privilege from the white man, and they're going to give it to you. And they keep telling people that it's like white males like me. I own a white privilege factory downtown. I got so much white privilege. I be giving free white privilege away to all of the spoiled rich white kids. I'm not giving any of the African Americans any white privilege because I'm too greedy and I don't want to share my white privilege. So because of this, now you must now attack my white privilege and take it from me so that you can redistribute this white privilege to all of the other the women and the Kleenex, the Latinx, because they're all crying rivers full of lip tears from their snowflake eyes, and they need Kleenex because Spanish is too sexist for them. You can't say la or los. Everything is X. And so this article says, with unprecedented numbers of Americans expected to vote in November's presidential election, fears are rising that numbers of mail-in ballots will be rejected will also soar. Election officials are experiencing Election officials are experiencing a massive surge with mail-in ballots this fall as more Americans eschew voting in person to avoid the risk of spreading coronavirus after the pandemic is over. So they want to take away our voting in person rights. Because once you start making mail-in voting, then I can't go to a polling place where there's a lot of people and then try to convince the people around me as to why you should vote for Donald Trump. This is how they're going to maintain control, feeding you fake news through the social media companies like Facebook and Twitter that are controlled by Democrats. Their algorithms are heavily biased towards liberals because they want you. Liberals post more feel-good posts. They get you to like on them based upon what you want to hear. But data shows that mail ballots are rejected at far higher rate than in-person votes, raising concerns that millions of voters will be disenfranchised when they vote by mail, many for the first time ever. So right before the election happens, they're going to change all of the rules because they need to protect you from COVID after the pandemic's over. The pandemic's pretty much over, man. It's definitely not. You notice it's not in the news recently, right? The only thing that's been in the news is that the pandemic was fake news. Because if you look at the actual data, like this chart that I've been going over here on the show today, you see that, if you do the math on however many people the CDC said died so far this year, deaths from all causes, you do the math, it's going to be less people that died in 2017. So, yeah, sure, COVID's a deadly disease, but it doesn't really appear as though there's an increase in deaths. If you're going to say there's a pandemic coming through and a bunch of people are going to die, you're going to have to make this be more people than normally would have died. You're like, oh, there's a pandemic that's going to come through. It's going to save a bunch of people's lives. Okay. All right. So we're just going to destroy the economy then? Okay. You see, because that wouldn't make sense. No. Instead, they have to use fear. It all has to be fear. They have to control you. They have to muzzle you, put a mask on your face so that you can't talk to your neighbors, because that's the only way that they can control is by controlling your speech. muzzling you, making you commit suicide from wearing a mask, from being lonely and depressed and isolated and not getting any good sex. That's the Democrats' plan. When you vote for Democrats, you vote for white feminism. You vote for unlimited immigration, removal of your people, replacement with immigrants, and then they are going to take your voting rights away. They're going to take your gun rights away. They're going to then institute communism. And then when they find out that doesn't work, it's going to turn into National Socialism. This is why you can't go down the slippery slope of the left. You have to walk away from the left. You have to say, hey, look, I'm not down with communism. I'm not really down with giving you such a large percentage of my fruits of my labors without getting something in return. I'm not down with giving out all of this federal tax money in Oregon, where there's 1.9% black people, and then you want to focus on taking the tax money and giving $15,000 tax credits to first-time minority homeowners, business loans to minority-owned businesses. I own businesses, so I would like it if you would give me business loans. And then they want to make the Federal Reserve talk about race. I don't know what planet these people live on, but this one is fucking bozo. It's bozo. Make the Federal Reserve talk about race. I mean, come on, give me a break, dude. I mean, this is crazy. This is only Mr. Magoo would come out with a platform this bad. So we got to shut down their their mail-in balloting election rigging, because they're trying to rig the 2020 elections, and they'll try to convince you it's the Republicans trying to stop this, but it's all fake news. Bunch of fake news. Here in this next article from Newsweek, it says Trump tweets, quote, rigged election, question mark, and quote, after data firm warns about initial results. President Donald Trump, the king of memes, suggested the presidential election could be rigged following a report that he could appear as the winner in an illusionary landslide on the 3rd of November. And that's because they're rigging the polls in the swing states. They have to have mail-in voting in the swing states, or else their candidate won't win. So here's the data from a tweet from Rahid Kassam from the National Pulse. It says, warning, Democrat data firm admits, quote-unquote, incredible Trump landslide will be flipped by mail-in votes emerging a week after Election Day. And then they showed the, where do they show the graph, the chart? There's a chart that showed it. Axios. So what, I'm just going to paraphrase what it is. So the people that are polling in person, you're going to get the polling results. And then there's going to be a very long delay of whenever they're counting the mail-in votes and then going through the courts in order to determine that the mail-in votes were correct. So it's going to be a complete clusterfuck because they changed all of the rules in the mail-in voting at the same time in all these swing states. And so we got to have a lot of court trials to determine the election results. And this is why you're not allowed to change all of the election rules right before the election. Like, oh no, it's the pandemic. Right, the one that's over. That one. The one that when we look at the death tolls appear to be less than 2017. You can do the math yourself. It's less than 2017, but our population's bigger. That's insane. We can't let people do that. That's all of this is like fear mongering. This is par for the course with for Democrats. It's just this standard corrupt behavior of these Democrats. Here in this next article from New York Post, Barr says he's satisfied by job, concerned over mail-in ballots during a wide-ranging interview with the Con News Network. Wolf Blitzer pushed Barr, who was also AG in the H.W. Bush administration, about his future plans and asked whether he would enjoy his work. He said, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. I think he said he's concerned about it. That's kind of it. That's about as far as I'll go into deep of what somebody says. I don't like reporting on hearsay. What are we doing? I'm going to take a break because it is a long show. There's just a little bit more here. Not too much. Got some bizarre news. I think so we covered China, covered censorship, covered coronavirus. What do we got to do? All the other weird stuff. Immigration. Islam. Some random stuff. And then I'll be right back. I just need a break. All right, back with that real news.